is this, is that it is next to near impossible to even consider this with a $99 million cap hit from Josh Allen. That's just it. End of story. Period. You would have to cut the rest of the team here, and they become instantly one of the worst teams. So that's why it'd be like saying, the Bills should go trade for Patrick Mahomes. You know what? That's not possible. Just like you're not trading Josh Allen. So I'm going to let him. This is the way I think we bring Hickey.
You're going to let him defend himself.
Yeah, and let him hang himself, basically. He's just going to try to, and then he will say things that we will punch holes in.
But I love, not only do I love that he delivered the take the way he delivered it, the reaction from you included, from everybody, just so appalled, just upset. Are you high? What's wrong with you, man? Viewing this guy like he needs mental help. He needs to seek help right away. You don't know what you're talking about. And then Maggie with the cherry on top. Ryan Hickey needs to be deported for having that take. Oh, it's so good. And by the way, I've been thinking a lot about our conversation with him, and I know enough about Hickey that I'm gonna throw a scenario at him and see what his reaction is to it. It's a similar scenario.
All right. So is this going? Because he does like a cult podcast. Does it have to do with that?
I'm going to. I have something in my mind, and I'm going to run it by him and see what he has to say. And you know what? Like Ryan spent all those years with Zach Gelb every night. You'd hear him here on the Fan before Gelb, moved on up in the world and moved up to afternoons. So we know he's got some takes. We know he's been dubbed Hot Take Hickey. And this one's a doozy. Can't wait to have him on with us here in about 10 minutes or so. And we'll punch holes in his take that the Bills should trade Josh Allen. By the way, I don't know if you saw this cross your feed. I've seen it a couple of times. And one of our regulars, Cool Dom, posted this. It's a video that was posted originally by Dane Brugler.
This is Josh Allen in his Wyoming days.
Yes, it's video of Josh Allen playing at Wyoming. And it is a great clip, man. It is the full-on Josh Allen experience. And Brugler's point is this is why Josh Allen is polarizing as a player. You watch this clip and you say, what the hell is he doing? This guy is crazy. He's not fit to be on a football field. And then the other half of the audience would see it and be like, oh my God, this guy is so athletic and so ridiculously competitive. There's no quit in his game. Sign me up. It's one or the other. You view this clip and you're like, this guy's crazy, one, or he's supremely athletic and talented, two. And there's really no in between. It's just him scrambling for his life and turning what looks like a disaster into a positive play while he was in Wyoming. It's a great clip. Seek it out. Dane Brugler, who was on One Bills Live yesterday, was sharing that, and I want to thank Cool Dom for pointing it out. I believe he said this is one of his favorite clips because it was when his golden retriever, his puppy golden retriever, started to become a real dog.
I feel like there's a cliff note here too because it's been a few years. Why is he Cool Dom? Well, if you go back decades in town, there was a caller. Hey, it's Dom. No, this is not the same Dom. There are many Doms in our town.
What do you mean there's many Doms in our town? There are? In this town?
Okay.
Hey, let me tell you about Maddie Glab. I heard her on your show the other day, and I'd like to take her to Bill Gray's to get a great plate on Tuesday. This is Dom from East Rochester. I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Thankfully, Maddie Glab played along with that. I think she understood.
Oh, yeah? Will she understand if John Ram is on the golf course and she's trying to get some sound?
Maddie Glab.
Maddie Glab talking to John Ram at the PGA at Oak Hill. And then, and after that, we're going to go to the Bills game.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to go up to Buffalo, and I'm going to go get some hot wings and blue cheese, and then after that, I'm going to take my kids to the Bills game.
I don't know who that is, but odds are high that his name is Dom. Pretty good odds that his name is Dom.
I know there are a lot of Tonys in your neighborhood.
Oh,
do you have a Dom in your neighborhood?
So many Tonys. Do we have a Dom? I don't think we have a Dom. No, I don't think.
There's got to be a Dom you haven't met yet in your neighborhood.
We have multiple Tonys and multiple Nicks. Multiple Mikes. No Doms. That feels like a miss. Well, there's an application. I mean, if you want to move into my neighborhood, there's boxes that need to be checked. Does your last name end in a vowel? I think is one of those things. Huge dong. You have to have a huge dong if you're going to live in my neighborhood. That's one of the boxes that needs to be checked as well. My neighbors all know this. They're all part of that club. One of the other things that I wanted to bring up at some point today. Moving on, Gene.
Comment.
It was a conversation I was having with a Bills season ticket holder. And we don't have to have it now because we got Hickey coming up here in just a couple few. But I want to kind of set the table here a little bit because
it's going to be uneasy here.
I want to hear, and by all means, if you're a Bills season ticket holder listening to the Sports Bar and you've already been through the process of going to the new stadium experience that the Bills have set up essentially to get you to purchase your tickets for the new Highmark Stadium, I would love to know what that experience is like, because some of the stuff that I'm hearing about it, I mean, the experience itself, I'm sure, is really, really cool. You're all, you get your own individual rep who kind of guides you through the process. But part of that process might require you taking out a loan with Buffalo Bills sponsor M&T Bank. We haven't talked about the PSLs. We haven't talked about what that's going to cost. You have a feeling that a new stadium is going to require, just a hunch, that a new stadium is going to require higher ticket prices. We've been talking about the PSL, but we don't know what that number is, and nobody's talking about that number.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more, though. Like, is this new? Because, okay, what's the average interest rate on a monthly car payment, right? It depends on where you are in said car payment. So if you are paying a car, what is that, 4 years, 5 years? And you're paying what? Anywhere from like, say, $50 a month down to $15 a month. What's the difference between financing, your car rather than, hey, here's your big check. Oh, I don't have that money in my account. No worries, sir. We're going to finance this over 5 years. Where that sounds unusual, I think that's actually just smart business by the Bills. I would defend it this way because unlike other places, Danger, these are going to be actually real people, real fans. Not the case there with MetLife Stadium where it's a corporation buying everything up, with the exception of things up top, and they can just write you a check. I don't know too many people that have $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is, lying around in a checking account.
I feel like that might be a problem, but we can get into that. We can talk about that a little bit here later on this afternoon. And if you're a Bills season ticket holder and you've gone through that experience with the new stadium, I would love to hear from you at 866-4326. 585-866-4FAN is our phone number. Ryan Hickey stops into the Sports Bar next to defend himself, man. What is this take that the Bills should trade Josh Allen to the Bears for the first overall
Face the
pick?
music, Ryan Hickey.
We love it. Hot Take Hickey joining us next in the Sports Bar.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger.
Sabres hockey tonight, the team in Tampa Bay. Goaltender Dustin Tokarski, he's been called up from the Amerks for tonight's game. No word on who will be in net for Buffalo. Don Granato on the Lightning.
You know what they bring night in. They bring it night in and night out. They're very dangerous, talented guys. And again, their supporting cast is an ultra-competitive group.
Coverage begins at 7 o'clock tonight here on the Fan Rochester. The Amerks, they're on the bus right now heading up to Belleville, Ontario, the first of two tomorrow night. Combine continuing. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills and NFL Combine next hour. Josh Reed, WIVB, will be our guest. Action tonight in the NBA, including the New York Knicks home against Golden State. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Save half off today to Lasertron in Henrietta. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
All right, this hit our feeds, I want to say, Tuesday night.
I think I was like one of the first to see it because I don't know how many in the Bills Mafia follow Ryan. Congratulations to Ryan, though, with this take. I think there are many people in Bill's Mafia who know Ryan.
And Peter, one of our regulars, pointing out on X, and I agree with Peter, this is the nominee for Take of the Year. It has to be. It has to be.
For how bad it is?
Well, we nominated, what's his name, for saying that he was going to remember where he was when the Twin Towers fell and when Tom Brady retired. I mean, it's terrible.
Fair enough. Ryan Hickey is nominated for Take of the Year.
You can hear him on JR Sport Brief right after us here on The Fan. You can hear him Hick at Night on CBS Sports Radio. Hot Take Hickey. All right, man, you're in the sports bar, and you riled up some Bills fans. If the goal was to get ratioed, congratulations. Defend yourself, man.
What is going on, fellas? I appreciate the intro. Take of the Year already. It's not even March.
You're a nominee. You're a nominee. It's a nominee.
What I will say first, well, true, that's right. Nominee. I don't want to get ahead of the boat here. You're right. Number one, I was listening before. This is no troll job. This is not like, oh, let me just rile up some fans here and upset a few folks for a random Tuesday. This is real. Like, I put this out here fully believing what I said, and I'm ready to go toe-to-toe here with whatever questions you guys have as to why this. If you talk about what is true of the best of the Bills' future, this is it right there.
Listen, it could be one of these takes that 5 years from now, Caleb Williams, wherever he goes, leads us to him to a Super Bowl, and we're still in the bitter cold up here in the month of February wondering what happened. I will say, Ryan, that's possible. What's not possible? Okay, explain to me logistically how this would get done if Josh Allen, just the Bills trading him alone would mean a $99 million dead cap figure that would you pile on top of the 41 they already have to account for.
Sure. I mean, well, it's really not 99 though, right? If you look at it for a trade, if you want to do post one or pre-June 1, however you want to break it down. If you do pre-June 1, you're going to have a $50 million cap. You'd have to eat that, but you also have a rookie quarterback, so at least you can open up some space there. But then you're free in 2025 and beyond. If you want to go post June 1, I think it's like a $17 million cap hit this year, and like $35 million next year, and you save $30 million this year. So it's really like when you look at the cap hit itself and now what cap hits are with quarterbacks, I mean, the Broncos about to have a $40 million cap hit on Russell Wilson just to cut him and get nothing back in return. Like, the numbers going up, and it's becoming more acceptable to, if you want to move on from a quarterback, to eat a big number. Like, in the grand scheme of things, when you're getting Caleb Williams in return, if part of what is the cost is having $40 or $50 million on your cap for 1 year, again, that's if you want to do pre-June 1, I think that's a cost that's not, that's prohibitive, I should say, not prohibitive, of making this deal done.
Gino, I know you have more. I know you're shaking your head.
Yep.
I can hear you rolling your eyes at Hickey.
Yeah, Ryan, why do you believe the Bills are that far off? I mean, okay, the Niners took the Chiefs to overtime, but you're literally there's been two games where the Buffalo Bills were 13 seconds away from getting to a win in Kansas City, where Josh Allen he played, maybe you could say, the best ever in defeat in that night. He was near perfect, and still they lost the game. So much so that they changed the darn rules in the league here to say, you know what? The Bills deserved another chance in overtime that shouldn't have been decided by a coin flip. But I digress. This playoff run this year, okay, on the list of reasons why the Buffalo Bills lost that game, I'm not putting Josh Allen in the top 5, but he had the ball down 2 minutes to go with a chance to tie at the end. So my point is, why do you believe the Bill? I don't think, and a lot of Bills fans don't think. I think we're pretty close here, Ryan. But you seem to think that it is never going to happen for this current makeup of this roster.
That's right. Well, a few things. Let me just clear one thing. I think this was lost to confusion. And maybe because people didn't watch the clip, which I get, no one wants context anymore. The whole premise is not about Josh Allen. Like, this is not me saying Josh Allen can't win a Super Bowl. This is using Josh Allen with where the Bills are right now as a way to get out of this current situation. And I know it may on the surface sound stupid to say, well, why would you trade a top 3 quarterback and think you can get closer to a Super Bowl? But part of it is you are getting, number one, a prospect that is generational, that people are talking about the same sentence as Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, John Elway. I get Caleb Williams hasn't proven anything. There's no guarantee, but there's a lot of people that believe very strongly he will be a very good quarterback in the NFL. But I'm glad you brought up the 13-second game, because that's, for me, where it starts. Let's go back to that game, right? The Bills are right there, right? And I would agree that 2-game playoff run, where you smoke the Patriots and then the 13-second game, those are the 2 best Bills playoff games they've played in the Josh Allen era, easily. Period. Stop. Where, though, have they gone since that game? The last 2 postseasons, you've had 4 home playoff games. You've got embarrassed by the Bengals. You lost to the Chiefs at home this past year, in which that was the worst offense that's going to be around Patrick Mahomes in his career. And you look at the other 2 playoff wins, you barely beat and almost blew a 21-0 lead to Mason Rudolph and the Steelers. And then last year in round number 1, you have to hold on for dear life to beat Skylar Thompson and the Dolphins, who can't win a game when it's below 50 degrees. And they put over 30 points up. So it's not like, when you look at the Bills, they don't have a Chiefs problem. If it was just the Chiefs and they were blowing everyone else out in the AFC, different story. But if you look at it, like, they're barely getting by some of the worst playoff teams in the field the last 2 years, got embarrassed by the Bengals and, lost to the Chiefs in a situation where Josh Allen played well and the rest of the team could not help out. And that's where this is coming from. Look at how the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl, you could argue, with everyone besides Mahomes. Like, up until the fourth quarter and overtime, Mahomes is not doing a lot. You look at the Ravens game, that was a defensive struggle. The Bills game you just saw, especially in the fourth quarter, came down to running the football and great defense. Like, that defense and that run game for Kansas City was a large part of why they won the Super Bowl, not Patrick Mahomes. And then you look at the Bills, all we keep talking about with the Bills for years and years and years now is they put too much on Josh Allen's plate. They're asking Josh Allen to do too much. Allen's been great for the most part. He's had his moments in the playoffs, but he's been great for the most part, right? The problem is there is nothing else Buffalo can rely on outside of Josh Allen. Carolina, the defense. Carolina, the run game. Run game that got better this year, but unfortunate theme with them is when you need the run game the most, in the biggest games of the season, the run game disappears. Fourth quarter against the Chiefs in a close game. What happened to the run game after destroying the Chiefs the first 3 quarters? Got nothing. So it's like you look at where this team is, they have gotten worse since 2021. They've gone in the wrong direction in terms of closing the gap on the Chiefs and everyone else in the AFC. And now you look at the cap hell they're in, you look at the old and aging defense, and you look at not a lot of avenues to put talent on this team. It is a win. Like, you are in a win-now Super Bowl window without having, I would say right now at this moment, going into 2024, a Super Bowl caliber team.
So wrong. Okay, wrong. By the way, James Cook, number 2 in yards from scrimmage last year. Only behind this guy McCaffrey.
A lot of that was in the pass game. Like, he is not consistent enough in between the tackles. That is a big thing the Bills are missing. In between the tackles, they have never had a guy that can consistently get you 4 yards a pop. He's had moments. The Cowboys game was awesome, but it's also, too, like when you talk about total yards, a lot of that is the passing game. Swing routes, out of the backfield. They don't have someone outside of Allen that can consistently run the ball.
Ryan, full disclosure, I mean, I'm a Bears guy, so when you suggested this, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I'm all in.
It's how many people were like, Danger, you're wrong.
No, you don't understand. I know you're a Colts fan. Mm-hmm. Would you have suggested the same move after Peyton Manning missed his 6th try at getting into the Super Bowl?
I'm glad you brought that up because Zach actually brought it up yesterday to me. Here's the difference between that and where the Bills are. Like, you look at the Colts team, the Colts had a great team. It was Peyton Manning. That was the issue, right? At the time in the playoffs, 03, 04, 05. They had Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Dwight Freeney. Like, they had Hall of Famers on that offense and defense. Where are the Hall of Famers on the Bills team? Like this is like it's not a Josh Allen. Like, this trade to me is not because Josh Allen stinks and the Bills came with Josh Allen. The problem is the Bills can't build around Josh Allen and don't have any avenues to get real talent on this team around him. And so it's like, are you going to keep banging your head against the wall and hope that Von Miller finds a fountain of youth next year, or Stephon Diggs puts whatever, who the hell knows, whether it's personal, whatever, put his problems behind him, and now all of a sudden tries, is back to a number one wide receiver next year? Like, there are real holes in this roster that, for example, the Colts in 05 didn't have that the Bills do.
Ryan, the part of the take in the tweet where I'm like, you were trolling us. Who says no? Did you not know what?
That's a well-crafted take.
That is
well-crafted.
That is either I am inviting Bills Mafia to come back at me, or did you not know the power of the Bills Mafia, Ryan?
Definitely number one to not know the power of the Bills Mafia. Number two, that is like I grew up listening to WFAN. So like that was always like anytime you had I guess now as I say it, maybe this is I'm doubting myself a little bit,
no?
but so you have a crazy caller trade and goes, who says no? I love that phrase. Anytime there's a trade, it can be sensible or not. Who says no? I love that phrase. That's probably why I put it in. But it was like, it was partly serious. I'm thinking about it in my head, and as I'm recording this, I'm like, this makes sense from both sides. Like, I don't, like, if this trade was offered, if I was a GM on either side, Buffalo or Chicago, I'm saying yes.
My co-host is a coward. I wanted to bet him yesterday a box of wine that you wouldn't back down from your take, and I knew you wouldn't back down from your take.
Well, I didn't. I knew he wouldn't either. That's why I didn't bet you.
You didn't bet me. All this being said, Ryan, let's assume that the unlikely scenario that you've put out there that the Bills would trade Josh Allen for the number one overall pick doesn't happen. If you're Chicago and you have the number one overall pick and you also have Justin Fields, what are you doing?
Caleb Williams. No question about it. He is. I think he's a real deal. Again, I'm very high on him. I think he's going to be, like what I said in the clip, I think he could give Patrick Mahomes in 5 years from now a real run for his money. I think he's that good. USC talent-wise was not very good around him. So I don't think, especially 2023, that was, a true depiction of what he can be in terms of team success. The offensive line, it honestly had us three on it, and blocking maybe we could be better than USC's offensive line, trying to give him some protection last year. I think he's going to be this is, to me, a true can't-miss quarterback. Not I guess Trevor Lawrence is probably the last quarterback we talked about, in this same vein that has not panned out. But I don't think he'll be like Trevor Lawrence. I think he'll more be like an Andrew Luck and a Peyton Manning.
All right, Ryan. So, again, I'm not saying anything that's new here on the show. Danger and I have talked about what it's going to take for the Buffalo Bills to get over the hump here. And we're just kind of resigned to the fact that Sean McDermott is here, and we're kind of stuck with him. I look at Sean McDermott as being a very good coach. However, there's plenty of instances in the NFL where very good coaches aren't the right fit. See Tony Dungy in Tampa. You bring in another coach, they win the Super Bowl, but then Dungy goes to Indy and they win the Super Bowl. It was actually Zach when we had him on the show earlier, when this was right around that Denver Monday night loss. It was just so horrific. Bringing up that Harbaugh to Buffalo, I'm like, wow. We can't allow ourselves to think, what would it be like to bring in a winner? So my question to you is, where you're saying, hey, there's all these problems for the Buffalo Bills roster-wise, and maybe you trade your best asset, which it won't happen, but could you fix this, perhaps, if you had a different coach?
Possible. Well, fix it, I guess, in the sense of, again, you still need help on the defense. But I do think coaching is a big thing that could help. And, you guys maybe know better than me. I don't know why a move's not been made. I would agree. Sean McDermott he was a perfect coach for when he was hired, right? Built the Bills up, built them into a sustainable winner. Now they're winning the AFC East consistently. Now they get to the playoffs consistently. He is a tremendous builder where he can take a downtrodden organization and get them to competency. But I don't think, and we've seen this play out in the playoffs multiple times, I don't think he's a coach that can get you over the top. You can go from, good to great, but he can't get you from great to elite or great to a championship. I don't know why the Pagulas are patient in terms of keeping him around, But I mean, also too, like you look at this roster, like there are real holes. Like that defense is going the wrong direction in terms of age and also some of the money tied up into guys that are not producing. And it's like you look at like where they are cap-wise, like there are upgrades that are needed that are just a coach would help. It would get you in the right direction. It would stop what I would call a backslide right now going in the wrong direction. But I don't think it's a cure-all where it's like you fire McDermott, bring in whoever,
Right.
and now all of a sudden they are right there with the Chiefs.
Well, they're married. I mean, McDermott and Bean are married. If one goes, they both go. And, maybe I've been saying it wrong because ever since that Denver loss, my thing has been like this team can only go so far with Sean McDermott. And looking at how the roster is constructed and looking at the kind of corner that they've painted themselves into here, maybe it is both Bean and McDermott that deserve equal parts blame here in terms of the Bills' inability to get to that next level. And for what it's worth, I mean, there was a lot of talk about Kyle Shanahan being in his Andy Reid in Philadelphia phase going into the Super Bowl. I mean, Sean McDermott might also be going through his Andy Reid in Philadelphia phase right now, learning, from Andy Reid when he started his coaching career in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's like winning is hard, right? I'm not gonna try to pretend here that it's easy to win a Super Bowl, but it's just also like I think different coaches give you like different in terms of like hints or not of whether they can actually get it done. Like Kyle Shanahan, I think can get it done. Obviously, he's been there twice. I know he's lost. He's had opportunities. Like I think he's just knocked on the door where he will win when he's very close. I think he's shown now he is a Super Bowl caliber coach like his friend Sean McVay. Eventually got over the hump as well after losing the first one. And it's just like with McDermott, like I just don't know, especially now. I think partly it's him, but also partly it's the fact that he's a defensive coach. And so you are limited to basically making sure you have the right OC hire in place to get the most out of your offense. And like you kind of saw with Brian Dable, who got the most out of Josh Allen for 2 years and leaves, like that's really hard to nail. And once you do nail it, it's like an every year or two cycle of turnover. We'll see how Joe Brady does now going forward in a nice little interim run. But now there's a full-time guy. Like, is this going to work? Like, that's part of, like, why, at least for me, McDermott, like, there is a ceiling to it. It's just because, like, you are limited now in your offensive success in an offensive-driven league, predominantly based on who's calling the plays.
I love all the reaction here we're getting on X. Ryan Hickey, CBS Sports Radio, our guest here. Brian writing in, I'm not blinded by Bills fandom. Hickey is making really good points. I think the Bills should do this in a heartbeat. And Brian, I just go back to this. See, the part about the salary cap, that is real. Like the idea that, well, you could just do this in June, and it would come with so much more pain where you're taking a team that is the clear-cut favorite for the AFC East next year. I know Dolphin fans will be upset by me saying that. To making them right alongside the Jets at the bottom of the division and the Patriots with this move, Ryan. So I still can't wrap my mind around why you would give up a top 5 quarterback in the league unless you don't think that Josh Allen is a top 5 quarterback right now.
Oh, no, I do. I mean, part of the clip was just like if the Bears make this trade on the other end, like they have the best quarterback in the conference. I think he's better than Hurts, better than, Dak, etc. I mean, that's obvious. But like anyone else in the NFC, like if you're the Bears from your perspective, Danger, like you would have the best quarterback in the conference. But it's just like also too, like, I mean, part of it is trading Josh Allen, but also part of it is getting like what you get back. And like, okay, I put in the tweet 2 first-round picks. It was like the first and the 9th pick. People got a lot, very upset. That's all you think it's going to take. Fine. If you want to add a 2025 first-round pick, I could pretend to be GM. We could talk back and forth terms. But let's just say the Bears add another first-round pick. You get next year's first-round pick. If you're the Bills, then why can't you be like the Lions? Remember when the Lions traded Matthew Stafford to the Rams? They got 2 first-round picks. They got Jared Goff. They turned that into, what is right now their young core, and they are right now built to be one of the, young up-and-coming, big teams in the NFC. They look like they're going nowhere anytime soon, in part because the Lions recognize and know, obviously, they are up in a way worse spot than with Stafford than obviously the Bills are. I'm not trying to say the two teams are comparable. But the Lions kind of recognize after a while, we're stuck here. We have a really good quarterback, but we don't have the team around him to compete and have the resources to put talent around him. Instead of banging our heads against the wall, we're going to trade him. And they turn that one trade into now a lot of their young core. If you're the, in this hypothetically, if you're the Bills and make this trade, you could have Caleb Williams and 4 first-round picks the next 2 years at your disposal to start to build this team now and have a reset. I mean, that's, to me, attractive. Like, that's an absolute possibility where that could kind of reset where you are and open up a new window compared to where you are right now.
It's the one thing that I think Bills fans can look at what Brandon Beane has done, and he hasn't missed on all of his draft picks, but he hasn't hit at the rate that maybe a Brett Veach in Kansas City has, where you've got guys contributing from day one when you need guys, young guys, cost-controlled guys contributing from day one. Ryan, I don't have a problem. I know that you got skewered by a lot of Bills fans for this. I know my co-host hates
Waffle, Ryan. Come on,
hates this
waffle.
idea. But I'm like, who was it that tweeted that said he's not blinded by Bills fandom and that you're Brian's
Brian,
making, yeah. Brian says that you're making great points. There are a lot of great points to be. I don't think it's going to happen, Ryan. But man, do I appreciate you sticking your neck out there.
Hold on. What's your reaction when Maggie Gray, the point guard of CBS Sports Radio, says you need to be deported?
Shocked. I love it here. I don't want to go anywhere. Send them to Canada. I mean, I like skiing, but geez.
We started by talking about the Take of the Year nominee, Ryan, and last year, Maggie Gray was our Take of the Year winner. And her take was essentially that the high point of this Bills era was 13 seconds, that it might not get better than 13 seconds. And at the time that she won Take of the Year, we were feeling pretty good about ourselves. That was before the Bills lost to Kansas City again in the postseason. So you never know, Ryan. We may be calling you in December to accept the Take of the Year nominee. We'll see.
She wants me deported, and she's also the same person that said the possible highlight of this team could be the 13-second game?
This was Maggie Gray on with us last year.
Here's something I've learned about
I'm
Eagles
sorry,
fans.
wrong one. I got the wrong one. That's this year's Take of the Year nominee from Maggie Gray. Maggie's take on the Bills.
Is it mental? Man, I hope not. Because if it is, that means that solidifies probably something that maybe Bills fans and maybe the organization doesn't want to face, which is the 13 seconds game might have been the best shot. And I'm not willing to say yet that they're not going to have another great shot at this and that they're not going to have learned from those mistakes in that game and can be better for it. I'm not giving up. This hasn't beaten me down yet. Hell, we're Bills fans. We've been through worse. And I think if a few things can break right and they can start peaking at the right time at the end of the season, why not the Bills, really? I mean, we have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. We still have a great defense despite some of the injuries. I'm saying we now, like I'm suiting up for the team. But I'm still with this team.
That was Maggie in December. Wow. And that was before the Bills lost again to the Chiefs. So that when you listen to it now, it actually is chilling because you have to go back and think like, wow, maybe she's right. Maybe 13 seconds was as good as it's going to get for this team.
And if that's the case, like then let's reboot it. Let's try to open up the window. Let's try to get better.
Coming from a Cole fan of all the teams.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Of all the teams that should know. Like droopy Peyton Manning and Foxborough, I'm not going to get over. And then finally one day it happened. And it was glorious. And we were all happy for you. And you, Ryan Hickey, can't relate to that? What could be here?
That I can relate to. But I'm what I'm truly worried about, too. How long, let's be realistic here. How long is the window for Josh Allen right now? 5 years?
I was going to say 4. So 4 to 5, yeah.
As someone who watched Andrew Luck crumble with the amount of hits he took to the body, and someone who watches Josh Allen, exciting, fun, awesome, that's taken a lot of similar hits, that's also part of why, to me, this trade makes sense. You have a limited window with Josh Allen where he's a top 3 quarterback, but for how much longer? I'm not going to wood here as I speak. I'm not trying to put anything to the universe, but it's like if we're talking about a 4 or 5 year window, and next year the team is like, the defense is not very good, and you're in cap hell, and if a Josh Allen injury happens, like those window or those opportunities disappear fast, and then what? Then you're kind of sitting there in 4 or 5 years with an Asian quarterback, kind of sitting there going, well, what do we do now?
Yeah,
this is an opportunity to get out ahead of that. And maybe now open up what would be, you take a step back for a year or two, then open up a 10-year window again with Caleb Williams versus trying to run out the string now of a year or two, or I should say 4 or 5 years with Josh Allen.
Ryan, I love this conversation, and I appreciate you sticking your neck out there with this take that can get us talking and stimulate our minds a little bit as to where the Bills are at, what other teams might be looking for in their futures. I want to make sure you have an opportunity here before we let you go to tell everybody where they can hear more of you and get more of your work.
Oh, I want to hear from Bills fans because at least Twitter, they were not very nice. So if we want to have a civil conversation, pick a night, Sunday night, 10 o'clock Eastern, right here. On the Fan, please. I would love to hear your thoughts and have a rational conversation. Really fast, I do have one question for you guys. This is one thing that I did not realize before I put this tweet out that with all the replies I got, now starting to realize. How big of a fan base percentage-wise is a majority, maybe is a better question, that fans are bigger fans of Josh Allen than the Bills? Like, I sort of got the sense from a lot of people, they would rather have Josh Allen on the team than, like, win a Super Bowl. Is that a real thing?
Wow.
Ooh, no, I don't think you can unwind that. And the reason I say that is if you're my generation, you can Jim Kelly was synonymous with the Buffalo Bills. And when you get that quarterback, he is synonymous. And if you're going to say, hey, let's take away your guy here, even though you're presenting a scenario, even though, Ryan, I don't agree with your scenario, it is a scenario that, hey, actually, you should hit the reset button here and you want to win games here. Here's a better path. People want to see how the conclusion to this story here, that Josh Allen has been on the doorstep. Can he finally get over?
I think another thing about Josh Allen, and I don't know if this directly answers your question, Ryan, but I think it's unquestioned that Josh Allen is the most famous person from our region right now, in our region right now. That Josh Allen
no doubt
is a source of pride, and that people in Western New York love Josh Allen because he's on the cover of Madden and he's dating a Hollywood starlet.
And he's playing Oak Hill.
He's playing with Tiger Woods. He's doing all the things that celebrities do. He's famous and he's one of us. Even though he's not, he's one of us. He's from Western New York. He plays for our team. That's our quarterback. So there might be some truth to what you're saying, because Josh Allen being Josh Allen has brought in a lot of fans that really maybe weren't Bills fans, or at least they were casual Bills fans, especially during the drought. And it's been so long. It's been since Jim Kelly and Drew Bledsoe and Doug Flutie since the Bills have had a guy that they could call theirs.
Interesting. Yeah, it was very interesting, the amount of like responses I got of just like Josh Allen is Buffalo, kind of what you're saying, like he is the city. And it just almost seemed like they were putting even him like above the team. And that was just fascinating, man. It's interesting.
Well, it is a world that we live in where there's a lot of people that believe that they would be bigger than their employer or bigger than their brand or whatever that case might be. And I'm always the person that says the Bills will be the Bills even if Josh Allen isn't with the Bills or any player. There's no player that's bigger than the actual organization. We've seen that time and time again.
No, you're right about that, especially in the NFL. The teams are always king.
We'll be listening for you tonight with JR, and we'll be listening for you Sunday night as well, Ryan.
Whatever you do Sunday night, Bills fans, do not call Ryan Hickey. Don't call Ryan Hickey on Sunday night and tell him he's wrong. Don't do it.
We appreciate you, man.
You guys are the best. I always appreciate the support.
Take care, brother.
Thank you, Ryan.
There's Ryan Hickey. Hot take Hickey. Didn't back down. And I think he maybe converted a few people over to his side of belief.
Well,
that this isn't as crazy as it sounds.
No, but I think it's just the abstract of it. It's not the actual deal, because the actual deal, by the way, I take it high honor that Jeremy White, weighing in here on X. Make sure you approach about the $50 million cap hit or whatever it would take. Yeah, right. That was the first thing. And for anybody that jumped in late, and hot take was like, well, post June 1st, you're only looking at 17 this year. I'm like, yeah, and you would be looking at a heck of a lot next year. Point is, just look at it in the abstract. If you can't do it, will we look back at step-off points along the way? This isn't a step-off point, but if we get to the same point next year,
how many years are we doing this dance?
Right.
How many years are we doing the same dance?
Wildly entertaining team.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why with this quarterback, the way he's playing, but when those skills start to go down, that's when we start to have real conversations here.
Nobody felt the way I thought they were going to feel after they lost to Kansas City at home. We were 13 seconds was a punch to the gut.
Furious.
Losing to Cincinnati was like, oh, well, we had a rough year. A guy died on the field. This team's been through a lot. They didn't really show up. But and really, the Kansas City loss to me is inexcusable. It's inexcusable. And maybe I've been saying it wrong, because I have been saying that with McDermott as your coach, you're only going to go so far. But it really isn't all on McDermott. You have to look at how this roster is built. You have to look at the decisions that have been made in building this roster by Brandon Beane as well. It's why this draft is so critical, man. You have 10 picks, and if you can hit 6 or 7 of those picks, and you get contributors, long-term contributors.
Dude, if you get 3 starters out of this draft, it can't be done. Kincaid, I count as a starter. You contribute, and certainly, Cyrus.
You need it. You need that. If that happens, maybe things turn around. Maybe we see those signs early next year. But I'm with Hickey. It is Super Bowl or bust. That is the expectation with the Buffalo Bills. But I think we all realize the way this roster is built, it can really only get you so far. I'm not saying trade Josh Allen, but I love the conversation. I love thinking about the what ifs in the NFL offseason. What else are we going to talk about? Measurables? Okay, maybe we'll talk some measurables.
Let's bet the 40-yard dash time here, Danger.
Some takes on tap next with I'll Drink to That in the Sports Bar, Gino.
What would be something that a lot of people would say, you have to do this because of the Bills cap? I'm going to suggest a move the Bills do not make, and it's actually going to cost them some money against the cap. I will explain which veteran I believe needs to stay on the team. And again, I'm an addict. Just some thoughts on that.
Yes, well, you and everybody. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about superfan Chiefsaholic here in the Sports Bar, but I do have a piece of audio that I feel needs to be shared. I'm trying to wrap my mind around how this guy's head works. I don't get it. And I have a non-sports take today here, an irony that was pointed out to me by a neighbor, and I'll share that here in a little bit as well. We'll take a break. Josh Reed will also join us in the 4 o'clock hour from Indianapolis and the NFL Scouting Combine. We have time for your calls as well at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Sabres hockey tonight. The team in Tampa Bay. Goaltender Dustin Tokarski. He's been called up from the Amerks for tonight's game. Our coverage will begin at 7 o'clock here on the Fan Rochester. The Amerks on the bus right now. They're headed to Belleville. 1-2 tomorrow night against the Sens. Combine continuing in Indianapolis. Tom Pelissero today on One Bills Live gives us what he thinks is next for Gabe Davis.
It's going to be challenging for the Bills to bring him back. He sounds like a guy who maybe wants a fresh start here. One way or another, he's going to get his money.
We'll talk to Josh Reed, WIVB, coming up later this hour from Indy. New York Knicks highlighting the schedule tonight in the NBA. They host Golden State. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Save half off today to Lasertron in Henrietta. For this and other great deals, log on to GetMyPerks.com today. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
A lot more people have started to talk about Ladd McConkey. He's a name that's started to come up in conversations as of late, as well as with draft analysts, too. I can't remember. We talked to so many people today on 105, but one of the draft analysts spoke about Ladd McConkey and how he thinks that he could possibly fit in a Bills offense.
Mike Danger.
If there's a wide receiver there at 28, I think we'd all be happy about the Bills selecting a wide receiver.
Gene Battaglia.
The Bills need some depth, right, in the secondary, and we know the Bills value versatility.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
It took a fire extinguisher to the sports bar here, the last segment, with Ryan Hickey dishing out hot takes like the Bills should trade Josh Allen.
Fire extinguisher fumigate the sports bar. Open up the windows.
Made you angry. Made a lot of people angry. Couple people actually heard some wisdom in what Hickey had to say.
Who, Brian? Who isn't a Bills fan?
No, he said he's not blinded by Bills fandom.
Okay.
He's probably a Bills fan who, Bills fans are allowed to be critical of their team. If you want to be critical, if you want to say, Sean McDermott might not be the guy. Maybe Josh Allen's window might be closing. There's arguments to be made with a lot of elements of this team. It's time for some takes on tap. We'll go to the NFL Scouting Combine in a few here with Josh Reed from WIVB in Buffalo.
Yeah, and the cap compliant date is coming up here for the Buffalo Bills as we approach free agency. There's that. Tomorrow is March, after all. And look, it's hard to advocate, I guess, for a defender that's going to be 33 this coming year, and that clearly is at the end of the line. But I think it would actually make sense for the Bills to keep Jordan Poyer's contract as is. He's in the last year of his deal, $7.7 million cap figure. Release him, that would save you $5 million. So that's right there what makes this debatable. I would not cut him, nor would I push it out with other BS void years or do anything like that. One last ride. He had 101 tackles last year. That has to count for something. Came up with a huge strip on Mecole to save McDermott from that horrific fourth down fake punt call. Poyer still has something left, I believe. Now, that doesn't mean you don't bring in his replacement. Certainly you do. Draft someone else. And, if we get to St. John Fisher and Poyer isn't where you think he should be, well, then you could always make the move then, too.
Do you think the Bills would do that? I don't know that the Bills would cut a guy like Jordan Poyer with 1 year left on his contract. I think they would honor that. I feel like that's something they would do for a guy who's been a warrior, who's been there, who, let's face it, last year at this time, we thought he was going to be gone. We didn't think he was staying in Buffalo. Well, it turns out the market for Jordan Poyer wasn't what the Jordan Poyer thought the market was going to be for Jordan Poyer, and he came back to Buffalo and played well. I mean, he certainly has lost a step. We can all agree. We see it with our eyes. He's not as fast as he used to be. He's not as athletic as he used to be. He's physical, can make some tackles, make some plays. I actually think Taylor Rapp is the guy that I would like to see them retain as well. If you bring back Poyer, if you're able to somehow retain Rapp and draft your next young safety, I kind of like what the future looks like at that position.
I am not as high on Rapp as you are. I think Taylor Rapp is a safety from a bygone era. Not quite Chuck Cecil. Chuck Cecil was this guy for the Packers. I don't know if you remember him or not, but he was just launching himself like a missile.
Yeah.
Not like that, but in this day and age,
I love it.
I need somebody who has more of a nose for a ball and not getting the 15-yard penalties every so often that Rapp does.
I mean, the play that ended the season was a big play against Miami, right? I mean, like he can make plays. And I think it is just a matter of making sure he's disciplined enough not to get the unnecessary roughness calls or not to the holding calls, whatever it might be. He was a little reckless back there, but I kind of like that. I kind of like that you've got somebody back there that can strike some fear into your opponent's hearts because you might get decapitated if you go across the middle.
I tell you, like having that safety, though, what Baltimore did drafting Kyle Hamilton. Now, the Bills are not in a position to be in the middle, but if there were they feel a safety they could develop. Who brought this up? Was it Matty yesterday? Like, was DeMar Hamlin on that track before the injury? I don't think so. I just kind of view him as just kind of a filler. Like, that's another one. Like,
I don't think DeMar Hamlin should be starting in the NFL.
I don't think he should be on this roster. I just talking from a football standpoint, folks.
Yeah, I would be okay if they brought back Poyer. Or I mean, he's under contract. That if they don't cut Poyer, I'd be fine with that. If they found a way to retain Rapp, I think that would be cool too. And if you draft a young safety and you got those three guys to kind of build on, I'd be okay with it.
Notice we're not even talking about the guy that is a free agent taking time. Micah Hyde, we're not even considering.
No, I if he plays somewhere else, I'll be shocked. I think this is it for Micah Hyde. I'd be shocked with the neck injury and everything that has happened the last 2 years. Hey, again, another guy that last year you saw it. Like when he's out there, he's giving it his all. But man, there's not a lot left. There's just not as much left as what you had. And what you had in those two guys when they were back there together was probably the best safety tandem in the NFL. So you were spoiled in that regard. You got to refuel. I mean, this is what teams have to do. Guys don't stay young forever. We haven't spent any time here in the Sports Bar, Gino, talking about Chiefsaholic, the story of Chiefsaholic. But oh boy, his lawyer spoke. I don't know if you heard this or not, Gino.
No, I have not.
This is the lawyer for Chiefsaholic. His opening comments after his client pled guilty to the charges against him.
From the beginning of this case, folks, the government has been blitzing, and Xavier's pocket was collapsing. But today, Xavier stepped into the pressure. He took responsibility for his actions. He stood up in court, humble and repentant, and admitted what he had done. Now, if I know anything about Xavier, and if the Chiefs Kingdom knows anything about Chiefsaholic, we know that he doesn't give up. We know that if he stumbled and he fell, he didn't let his knee touch the ground. Oh my God. And that's because he's capable of doing a great thing. And he knows that there's still hope. We still have a lot of work to do on his case, but Xavier wants everyone to know that he loves the Chiefs Kingdom, he loves Kansas City, and he hopes that you'll rally to his support. Thank you and God bless.
All right. So I've got so many thoughts on this here.
So what did he do again, Danger?
Robbery. He was robbing banks.
Robbing banks.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you were looking for the real life Saul Goodman, you just heard him. He's hiding in Kansas City now. Nice work with all the football references there. Look, maybe I don't understand fans who show up to games in costume, and I don't want to stop anyone from having a good time and having fun, but to take a criminal and then to prop him up like a hero, like he has done here, it's just gross. This is an adult who wore a wolf costume to Chiefs games, and his lawyer is talking him up like he's Mahomes in overtime. Dude was robbing banks to be able to afford going to games. I don't want to give him a second more of our attention because of how clearly he's shown how desperate he is for it. If the Chiefs Kingdom knows anything about Chiefsaholic, are you delusional? Like all those fans are at Arrowhead to see you in your wolf costume? This guy needs to go away. Go away for a long time. Get right, pal.
See, you said Saul Goodman. I'm listening to that, and just the inflection and the way he's reading that, it sounded like Sergio Dip to me.
Oh.
You see him right there on the screen. Yes, here he is tonight. He's having the time of his life.
If you know anything about Chiefsaholic, if Chiefs Kingdom knows anything about Chiefs, like he's some part of Chiefs lore. You're a dude who wears a wolf costume every Sunday to the Chiefs, to whenever they're playing at Arrowhead. That's your claim to fame.
Like they're covering this press conference. Shame on the media because you hear the click, 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 everything in the background. Like this is a real statement. Like people in Kansas City care about this.
You just had somebody get gunned down at your victory parade, and
I guess we moved on.
I guess we moved on. Oh my God, Chiefsaholic. I don't need that. We've done it. We've reached our quota. We don't have to mention it ever again. He pled guilty. He admitted he did all these terrible things, broke the law. He's a criminal, and his lawyer is probably the closest thing to real life Saul Goodman we'll ever see. Nice job.
First time in I don't know how long I have not had a cup of coffee here today.
I can tell.
Like that is just like, and you're bringing in Hot Take Hickey and playing with Chiefsaholic lawyer there.
You're getting a headache, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean a total headache here. Danger, I got a problem. I got to get off this stuff.
You don't have a problem. If you have a problem, we all have a problem. And like I said last hour, I think you need to double down. If the coffee machine isn't working, this isn't your problem anymore. You want to be the dude. You want to be the guy. You want to set a tone every day in the office, Gino. You get the French press and you put that thing on your desk. You become the most popular guy up there on the second floor. I'm telling you, French press, bring in your grounds. The whole office will smell of delicious, freshly brewed coffee. You wait, you let it steep, you press it down, and you've got fresh, hot coffee that everybody is coming to you for. You no longer you become the dealer. You become the dealer for everybody, for all the addicts on the second floor who need their coffee fix, who are bummed out that the coffee machine isn't working. Last thing you want is a bunch of insecure, narcissistic, and neurotic broadcasters walking around here with going through withdrawal.
I don't have the time for this. I like my coworkers, but I'm not. That's not my position. I'd rather just hit the button. I'm not immune to making coffee. I'm happy to make coffee.
French press.
No, I don't have time for that.
Be French press guy.
No.
If you're not going to do it, I might have to.
That's more your thing. You're grilling,
dude,
your French press.
I'll tell you what, man. Showing up to work and keeping a French press in your office, being French press guy in your office, that's a power move. That's a strong commitment to coffee. That's a strong commitment to your coworkers. That's a power move.
Yeah, you also have an office. I do not. So that's also part of the equation.
Well, it doesn't matter. You have your desk and your cube, and you could absolutely serve from your cube. People just come by like, hey, man, you got some of that French press for me? When can I get some of that French press? Yo, Gino, it's 2:00. I'm tweaking here. I need a little French press. What do we got going on? You'd be the most popular guy on the second floor. I have a non-sports take. We've given props here in the sports bar in the past to our delivery drivers, our plow drivers, really anyone who makes life living for the rest of us. Moment of irony here today in the sports bar. A neighbor shared a video with me with the caption, Amazon drivers are getting lazy. Now, this is a video from last night, his driveway. The driver pulls up, lobs the Amazon package in the general direction of the front door. Doesn't get out of the van, just opens up the window, lobs the package in the direction of the front door. The end result was his wife's conditioner exploding inside the package and just an overall unpleasant customer experience if you're an Amazon customer. The irony here to me is, well, is the Amazon driver lazy? Yes, in this instance, probably. But I could also make the argument that the person who can no longer take the 5-minute drive to the store to buy something may be the one lacking some motivation. I always feel like I'm saying we've run out of problems. Go ahead and add this one to the list. Next up, we're going to be paying extra to have the Grubhub driver shovel the food right into our pie hole.
It's going to be the movie WALL-E, just like going around in big blobs watching a monitor.
We're not that far from it, pal.
Yeah, sipping on a milkshake or
we
whatever.
We're not that far from it.
Yeah, there are certain things on Amazon that if you can get locally, sure, do that. I don't know if hair conditioner is one of them, Danger.
I just thought
unless it's a certain kind, I don't.
Just thought it was a little ironic to hear him call the Amazon driver. Look, if you're an Amazon driver, I don't know what the protocol is. I assume that they want you to get out and drop it off on the doorstep and take the picture of it so you know that it's there and then run back off into the van. But this guy just kind of lobbed it in the general direction of the front door and drove off. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's not a great customer experience. And yeah, that's probably a lazy move by that driver specifically. But it's also lazy to say that I can't get in the car, drive less than 5 minutes to buy my wife some conditioner. So there's that as well. And I'm ordering Grubhub tonight. And I'm going to ask them to shovel it directly into my maw.
Phil writing to us on X, actually specifically writing to you, Danger, and I need you to read this one.
I've got it. Okay, I know what he's doing here. Phil? Well, looks like we have a chief in wolf's clothing. Oh, it's not there anymore. Oh, sorry. Technical issue behind the scene. I had it queued up. I know where you're going, Phil. You wanted the CSI. Yeah. Can't get fooled again. I'm sorry. It's not there. This is what happens when the Dandalorian is under the weather. Yeah. Everything falls to hell. Our bounty hunter, the finest audio in the galaxy. We'll try and get a redo on that for you, Phil, at some point here this afternoon. We got to go to Indianapolis next and check in with the great Josh Reed from WIVB-TV in Buffalo. He is our ears and eyes today at the NFL Scouting Combine. We'll get his take on everything that he's been taking in throughout the course of the week, what the Bills could do here with 28, which prospects are turning his head. And we haven't talked to Josh yet this offseason, so we'll get his thoughts on just how the season ended for the Buffalo Bills. That's all on the way next here on The Fan.
Update.
Another game for the Sabres in the Sunshine State tonight. Next stop, Tampa Bay. Goaltender Dustin Tokarski. He's been called up for the Amerks. He'll dress in Buffalo tonight. Head coach Don Granato on Tampa Bay.
You know what they bring night in. They bring it night in and night out. They're very dangerous, talented guys. And again, their supporting cast is an ultra-competitive group.
Dan Dunleavy, Rob Ray with a call beginning at 7 tonight here on the Fan Rochester. The Amerks on the bus right now, headed toward Belleville, Ontario, first of two tomorrow night on the Fan. Combine continuing in Indianapolis. We'll talk to Josh Reed, WIVB, coming up next here in the Sports Bar. Next tonight, highlighting the NBA schedule, they host Golden State. Caitlin Clark, breaking news announcing that she will enter the WNBA draft following her season at Iowa. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
All right, let's head to Indianapolis. The NFL Scouting Combine continues today. Our ears and eyes at the Combine is Josh Reed, WIVB TV in Buffalo. Josh, buddy, it's good to have you on with us. Really appreciate you making some time, and we know how hectic and busy it can be there at the Combine. Paint a picture for us, man. What's the scene been like so far this week for you?
Yeah, typical year here at the Combine. You know, the media has been swarming this place since Monday. The players started to talk on Wednesday. Of course, we heard from Sean McDermott Monday, then we heard from Brandon Beane on Tuesday, and then the players started talking Wednesday, and they continue throughout the end of the week. Of course, with the big one as Bills fans, what they're waiting to hear from is the wide receivers, and those guys are coming up tomorrow, and I think that's going to be a really, really busy day for us.
Yeah, Josh, you had the chance, before we talk to, get your thoughts on the wide receivers and how you fortify the defense and what the Bills may do in this draft. They've got to get cap compliant. You've got free agency coming up. You had the chance to go one-on-one with GM Brandon Beane, and here's how I'll phrase the question for you. He's got a lot of decisions on his plate. Which one do you think you could see going either way? Of all these decisions here, which one do you think Brandon Beane might have kind of difficulty going one way or another here, whether that's camp compliant, or do you bring back a player like a Daquan Jones? Your thoughts here on just what Beane must face here.
Yeah, I got a sneaky one for you that I don't think enough people are talking about. A.J. Epinesa.
Yeah.
How often do we hear Brandon and Sean both talk about drafting, developing, and then re-signing their own guys? I believe that we've seen continued growth with A.J. Epinesa in his performance on the field. Now, granted, I know that it's not some huge splash signing if they were able to bring him back, but I do think it's not only is it would be good to bring him back at the right price, and I don't think he'd break the bank for you. And I think AJ likes the situation in Buffalo. He would get some increased snaps, you would think, if Leonard Floyd, exits. Von Miller, we're not sure, kind of where he's going to be going into next year. He'll obviously have a little more time to come back from his injury. But A.J. Epinesa, to me, is that player. Early in the season, he played really well. And then in that Kansas City game, I don't know if you remember this, but he jumped on the fumble, and he hurt his ribs. And I really think he was dealing with that a lot later in the season and after that happened. But I think A.J. Epinesa is a guy that they're really going to have to think long and hard about trying to bring him back.
When you have the holes that you have at safety and not knowing what the future of Micah Hyde is going to look like other than he's going to be a free agent if he doesn't retire, and Jordan Poyer, you have one more year left. Do you think there's any chance that a guy like Taylor Rapp maybe comes back to the Bills on another kind of, I don't know if it would be a short-term deal or long-term deal. What's your sense on the Bills and Rapp?
I mean, I got to believe Taylor Rapp, just like every player in the NFL, is looking for more than just 1 year. I don't know if the Bills can do that. I think he'd be great to have him back. He's a year in Sean's defense, and he's got it under his belt. Like you said, with Micah Hyde's future being very, very much uncertain, and Jordan Poyer's only got 1 year left on his deal, and the cap number's pretty high for Jordan Poyer. So that's another part of the puzzle is how does Brandon Beane work through that? I don't know this by any means. I got to believe they'll at least go to Poyer and ask him to possibly restructure, maybe even take a pay cut. We'll see how that all plays out. But his price tag for next year is pretty steep. So it's going to be interesting. I think that they're going to finally, after pushing this decision and this move off for years, they're finally going to address the safety position in the draft. I just firmly believe that. And quite frankly, we talked to the safeties today and some of the higher end ones, and 4 of the guys that I asked had formal meetings with the Bills here. And I think that's pretty telling.
Yeah, I've got one more for you, Josh, on the current players and who may be a casualty here. And when he got hurt in week 4, I hated that outcome, and we all did for Tre'Davious White. And then you look at the numbers. Okay, that's not appealing having him on the roster at $16 million, but you're only saving $6 million if you let him go. Is there a third option here, perhaps? Is Brandon Beane, could you see, perhaps talking to his agent, look, we'd like to have you back here at the number. Does Tre'Davious White have any other options than to take a pay cut? Your thoughts on the possibility of Tre'Davious White, or perhaps has he played his last down here, because those are difficult injuries to come back from?
I think a piece of the puzzle and a part of the answer to this is, do they believe there is still any hope at developing Kaiir Elam? I do. I think that's a part of this. And Don Butler's gone now. Maybe they believe that, a fresh start with a new set of eyes in the defensive backs room, as far as coaching goes. Maybe they feel like somebody different, a different voice, can get him to where he should be. I mean, even if it doesn't come back, come out to being a first-round talent, you got to be able to get something out of him. I do feel like that's part of the puzzle. I believe that they think Tre'Davious can still return and play at a high level. I'm skeptical. After hearing him talk after the first injury and what he went through physically, emotionally, mentally, it's hard for me to believe that he's going to be able to go through all of that again. That's a heavy lift. And I hope he is, and from all accounts, when you ask Sean and Brandon, he's rehabbing and working to get himself back, and he's at the Bills facility. Him being a top end cornerback solves a lot of issues, but as you mentioned, it's at a steep price tag right now. So I'm sure that's another one. Brandon is, working with agents and trying to figure out exactly how to make it all work. We're talking a lot about the salary cap right now. One of my favorite quotes from Brandon here at the scouting combine, when he was asked about the enormous leap in the salary cap number, he said he just couldn't help but smile when he found out what the number was going to be for next season, and rightfully so, because they were really up against it and now have quite a bit more wiggle room to kind of play with.
Josh, we've spent all this time talking about outgoing free agents that could potentially come back, or players that are on the roster that could potentially come back. We've spent all this time so far talking on the defensive side of the ball, yet I think most Bills fans want to see the team make a first-round investment on the offensive side of the ball, namely in a wide receiver. We all think that that's what they should do, but what do you think the Bills will do when it comes down to 28?
I think it'll be wide receiver. I do. I think that anytime you can add a weapon for Josh Allen, no one's going to argue that. No one's going to say, well, giving Josh Allen another guy to help the offense get rolling is a bad decision. I think that's the spot of need, and that is a spot that is loaded with talent in this draft class. Look, and that's the other side of this argument, if you want to make it, is there's so many good players that you can wait till round 2, maybe even round 3. I just think if you've got that guy in your sights, and we've seen Brandon do it before, if he likes a guy and he's a little worried about losing him, he'll jump up in the draft to go get him. He is not trigger shy. I mean, he'll go get his guy. I think that there are a number of guys, and in speaking to several national draft analysts who sit down and do this 12 months a year. I mean, that's all they do. And a couple of guys, including Ryan Wilson from CBS Sports Network, he just does a great job at analyzing the draft and the prospects. And he mentioned a couple of guys that he thinks going to be there at 28, including Brian Thomas Jr. That's a name to keep an eye on from LSU. Xavier Worthy from Texas, Keon Coleman, Florida State. Those were a few that he mentioned, and I think those are a few names, even Troy Franklin, those are a few names that we've heard, on and off leading up to all this. And then he broke out a guy's name that I don't think we've talked about a whole lot. At least I haven't, and a lot of the people that I've talked to. Ryan Wilson brought up the name Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky. Now, he's supposed to be maybe a late second-round guy. He said sometimes it's hard to get a comp on an NFL. Who's this guy play like in the NFL? He said, this guy's easy. This guy is going to be the next Deebo Samuel. And I went, wow. I mean, who doesn't want the next Deebo Samuel? He said, go watch some tape on Malachi Corley. So I did. And holy smokes. I mean, I don't know. Right now, CBS Sports has him ranked as the 70th best prospect overall, not wide receiver, just overall. And I'm not so sure that doesn't go up by the end of the combine and as the draft approaches. But that's a name to keep an eye on as well.
Josh, one thing we've learned from Brandon Beane over the years is they have first-round grades, and they don't want to spend a first-round pick on a guy they don't think is a first-rounder. Likewise, if they only have a few left on the board, that's the reason you see him move up. And I look at this Bills roster, and it's going to get depleted here. I think we know this through free agency. You're going to need to kind of do a redo at the end. My question is, would it actually make more sense for the Bills this year, 28, knowing that maybe there isn't that first-round grade guy, and you can get receivers like the one you're just describing here in the second round? Would it make more sense for actually the Bills to trade out of round one this year?
I don't think it's a terrible option. I don't, by any means. Like you said, if the guy you want is there and you have to trade up, well, I think that's the move rather than trade back, because this team is loaded with draft picks. They've got plenty of draft capital going into this. So adding more picks, I don't know. I mean, what are they at, 9 or 10 now? I mean, it's just they have so many picks. Adding more, I don't know how that works unless you're planning on packaging some of the later round ones to move up again. Maybe you move back out of the first round, and I don't mind that. If you move back 4 or 5 picks and still get, a wide receiver who can help day one, okay, that's cool. And then maybe you move up from 60. You use some of that draft capital to move back up from 60 in the second round, and then you target the safety you want, because you don't often see safeties go in the first round. And if there's a safety in the first round, maybe there's one, probably not two. So you could be looking at maybe landing the third, maybe fourth best safety in the second round, especially if you're able to move up a few picks from 60. And I just think those are the two spots to me that they really need to target. I know defensive line, interior defensive linemen, the pass rushers, that's also a spot that we've talked a lot about. But to me, safety, they've got to get an influx of youth and talent in that spot. And safety is such a big part of Sean McDermott's defense. So, yeah, trading back 4 or 5 spots, if they believe there are 2 or 3 receivers that are still going to be left and they kind of have an equal grade on them, then I have no problem with that. But like I said, continuing to stockpile picks, I just don't know how that helps you unless you're planning on packaging them and then moving back up, from another round.
Josh, you mentioned the importance of safety in a Sean McDermott defense. We also know the importance of getting pressure with the front four, and defensive tackle is going to be an area where they're short heading into the draft. They're short heading into free agency. We're getting measurables today on some of these guys, Josh. Anybody there in Indianapolis turning some heads? And is there anybody of note that might be there should the Bills be picking at 28 there with a need at defensive tackle?
Yeah, Sweat from Texas is the monster. I mean, this defensive tackle is 360. I think he weighed in 366.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is built like a freezer box. I mean, he is just enormous. And you put a guy like that next to Ed Oliver and look out, because he's just going to eat blocks, and he's powerful. And he made the comment that where do you see me run my 40? You're not going to believe it. And I'm like, okay, let's see then. I guess we'll watch that. I don't know how much stock you can put into a 40 for a defensive tackle. I don't know. To me, it's more about burst in that short area and strength, But, in talking to some of the national draft analysts, and as I mentioned before, guys who literally grind on this 12 months a year, when it comes to defensive tackles, it's consistently said by them that these are players that you can get in round 4, round 5, round 6. If you're truly looking for a defensive tackle to pair up next to Ed Oliver to eat blocks, that's not a guy that you need to spend a first or second round on. That's something that you can address later in the draft. And look, it's not like Daquan Jones was amazing last year. But you can find guys similar to that even in free agency. Maybe it will be Daquan. Who knows? I'm not ruling that out at all. I think Daquan's at the point of his career where he wants to make sure he's on a contender, and he wants to make sure he's comfortable with the room that he's in. So I would not rule that out by any means, seeing him back in a Bills jersey next year. But I don't think you have to spend anything really high in the draft to pick up that defensive tackle to sit next to Ed Oliver. And I don't think you have to break the bank in free agency to find that guy either.
Josh, what are you and everybody working on WIVB here we can go check out here as we're getting ready here for the draft here next month?
Yeah, so we've got some stories coming up here at 5 and 6 talking about wide receivers, of course. Even though the wide receivers don't talk until tomorrow, they have been the talk of the draft here or the combine here all week. I mean, it's amazing that they're not going to meet with the media till Friday, but it doesn't matter because we've been talking about them the entire time. Specifically, the Bills media contingent that's down here, because we know that A, that's what the fans want, and B, that's what the Bills kind of need, right? And it doesn't hurt that it's a sexy position, right? I mean, it's a weapon for Josh Allen, and then potentially a guy who can jump into Diggs' role. If Diggs is no longer part of the puzzle in 2025, grooming a guy to become the next Diggs. So, yeah, I mean, we're breaking all that down at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, in our newscast, and we continue to put stuff up on our website, WIVB.com. I was working on that right before I hopped on the phone here with you guys, and we got some good stuff breaking down the safeties today. So if you want to check that on WIVB.com, and then we'll do our 30 and 30 series, which starts in 2 weeks, and we profile 30 players, one a day for 30 days, leading right up to the first day of the draft, and that's coming up in 2 weeks, and you'll be able to find that online as well.
Josh, you're doing incredible work as always, man. Appreciate you making some time for us from Indy. Safe travels.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Stay safe.
You got it.
Yeah,
there he
thanks,
is. Josh Reed, WIVB TV in Buffalo. Today's set of ears and eyes for us here in the Sports Bar, live from the NFL Scouting Combine.
Our guy in Kentucky, Chris, writing in, I've seen Malachi Corley play in person. He's very good. I wouldn't mind seeing the Bills drafting him whatsoever. I could see him becoming a number 1 in 3 or so seasons. Yeah, do you want to draft the next Diggs? Or do you want to draft something that would complement Diggs? I think I would want to draft something that would complement Diggs right now.
They want separation guys at wide receiver. I mean, that's always been the thing. We want guys that can separate, separation guys that can separate. Beasley was a good separator. Diggs, impeccable route runner, could always separate.
Dalton Kincaid seems like he's a really good route runner.
He's going to be fine. Not worried about that guy. I still like McConkey. I don't know that he's a first-round guy, but that's the kind of guy that I think if you were to get him, he would. When I heard, I'm going to screw up. I don't remember which draft analyst it was, but when I heard one of the draft analysts mention or comp Ladd McConkey to Antonio Brown, Brandon Beane wanted Antonio Brown on this roster for Josh Allen. That's the kind of player I think Brandon Beane wants for Josh Allen. A separator, a guy who can stop on a dime and break some ankles. We'll see. There's no shortage of wide receivers that we could be talking about between now and the end of April. Mm-hmm. But right now, that's the guy that I'm like, ooh, I'm intrigued by that guy. I know he's probably not a first-round guy. But when you're talking about guys that are going to be available there at 28, then it really comes down to, well, who do you really like? Who do you like of who's left? Because the really good guys, the elite guys, have already been drafted at that point. Unless you're going up and getting somebody. But I don't see them being that aggressive. A couple of spots, maybe. Into the top 10? Nah. Not with 10 draft picks. I don't think you can afford that. You mentioned Twitter, and we were talking earlier about the irony of my neighbor calling the Amazon driver lazy for lobbing a package the direction of his doorway. One of our regulars on Twitter, that's Elon's Twitter, also known as X, is UPS driver Josh. Amazon drivers are the worst. We despise them. Oh, now we're talking, Josh. A little delivery turf war.
Well, UPS shows up. They had the, you know who it is, like the Amazon. Like sometimes it's just a white van or. Right, like we're gonna go like Uber at some point.
Got this picture in my mind of like from the scene in Anchorman where they're all meeting in a dark alley. You've got UPS drivers wearing their brown uniforms. You've got Amazon drivers pulling up with their fancy looking vans, and it's a turf war. No touching of the hair or face.
Oh no, it's the DoorDash guys. Oh no,
nobody likes Grubhub. Oh, get them out of here. Uber Eats, nice try. We're the United States Postal Service. Yeah, I want an all-out turf war, Josh. Let's make it happen. Shots fired. Can I get a mulligan on Josh's, on Phil's tweet from earlier?
Okay, try it again here.
Well, we were talking about Chief Saholic and his lawyer giving a football phrase-laden speech, the steps of courthouse where his client had just pled guilty to robbing banks. Well, looks like we have a chief in wolf's clothing. That's what I was looking for. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for giving me a mulligan on that one, Gino.
I blame Dan DeLorean getting sick.
We'll get to happy hour next in the sports bar. We'll get to a round of shots next in the sports bar, and we've got time for your phone calls if you want to pull up a stool. 866-4326, the phone number 585-866-4FAN.
And W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Thursday night hockey for the Buffalo Sabres. They're in Tampa Bay. Goaltender Dustin Tokarski has been called up from the Amherst for tonight's game, 7 o'clock. Our coverage will begin. The Amherst are in Belleville tomorrow and Saturday night. The Combine continuing. Tom Pelissero today on One Bills Live. Pelissero, what's next for Gabe Davis?
It's going to be challenging for the Bills to bring him back. He sounds like a guy who maybe wants a fresh start here. One way or another, he's going to get his money.
The Knicks host Golden State tonight. That highlights your NBA action. Caitlin Clark today announcing she's going to enter the WNBA draft following the season at Iowa. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Save half off today to Lasertron and Henrietta. For this and other great deals, log on to GetMyPerks.com today. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
A lot more people have started to talk about Lad McConkey. He's a name that's started to come up in conversations as of late, as well as with draft analysts, too. I can't remember. We talked to so many people today on 105, but one of the draft analysts spoke about Lad McConkey and how he thinks that he could possibly fit in a Bills offense.
Mike Danger.
If there's a wide receiver there at 28, I think we'd all be happy about the Bills selecting a wide receiver.
Gene Battaglia.
The Bills need some depth, right, in the secondary, and we know the Bills value versatility.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
You mentioned Caitlin Clark there in your sports update, Gino. We welcome you into Happy Hour, by the way, the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The Fan Rochester sounds its best in the free-to-download Odyssey app, and our stream is up. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, streaming on Twitch as well at The Fan Rochester. I'm going to make a bold prediction.
Okay.
I believe Caitlin Clark will beat Pete Maravich's scoring record for all-time points scored in college basketball.
How far is she away? I should know this.
I think it's 17 points.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair.
Feels like a win. Feels like a win, Gino.
I'm going to make another bold prediction.
Yes?
She's going to do what for the WNBA, what she's done for women's college basketball. Where women's college basketball, okay, we all liked it. It was on, but were we really making it appointment television? I'm telling you what, that Friday night semifinal, got to assume she makes it, but then you mix in a McKim Mulkey or South Carolina or whoever you're watching. So if Caitlin Clark can elevate her sport in the WNBA.
I'm not there yet, and I'll tell you why I'm not there yet. The game that you're talking about that you watched last year in the Women's Final Four.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it because I was on vacation. But
all right.
I didn't make a point because I was on vacation. But I think she's compelling, and there's probably something there. I don't want to compare her to other women's basketball players who have had great college careers and gone to the WNBA, and really the WNBA hasn't really changed, I don't think, when you look at some of the players, the great college players that went pro. Maybe she has a different sort of impact.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm curious.
And a lot of it, yes, I think a lot of it is going to have to do with the marketing of Caitlin Clark moving forward.
Well, what's funny, and we say this sometimes, like sometimes a sports take will elicit response of maybe anger. We learned that with Ryan Hickey.
Yes.
And I saw this sports take actually from the response. Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, who we have on the show a lot.
What was Andy's response to this take?
Okay, so and again, the background here is Andy went to Iowa. Okay?
Yes, he's an Iowa guy.
Okay, so I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about, and I had to kind of weed through this. This was Andy's take.
Big Sam Laporta guy.
Yeah.
Andy Behrens.
Yeah, and a big Caitlin Clark fan, too, as you can understand. Here's Andy writing. I see our preeminent sports business reporter has once again met the moment with a tweet that fails at sports, business, and reporting. Who's he talking about? Darren Ravel. And then I'm like, all right.
That guy.
All right. This is going to divide the audience. So Caitlin Clark tweeting out Hawkeye Nation saying, and the idea is she could come back for the COVID fifth year. as you see this in all sports, right?
She can play college basketball until she's 28.
She gets one more year, but she's going to come out.
Hey, some of the
she
guys,
got her degree.
Some of the guys we're going to be talking about in the men's tournament are 26, 27 years old. That's not a joke.
Okay, well, she had 1 year left.
Yeah.
Okay, and she pens her goodbye. Darren Ravel, sports business reporter, retweets it. Headline, Caitlin Clark chooses a $750,000 pay cut. Like,
whoa. What's Ravel doing nowadays? Where's he at?
Well, let's see here.
He's doing his own thing?
Founder of Drink Kickstand, partner Tastemaster Capital, memorabilia collector.
All right, so nobody's touching this guy anymore. What he puts out there is just too much. Nobody wants that guy's takes on their ledger.
The take, I think, and it's a little off, where Caitlin Clark is making money at Iowa off her own name. She's of the first of this generation, right? That you are a star. She can be in a State Farm commercial. Isn't that bleeping ridiculous that up until 20 months ago, that was not legal, that you couldn't appear as yourself in a commercial making money for yourself?
As a collegiate athlete.
Yeah. What country are we in? Well, at least they fixed that. And where it's off base is, sure, there's NIL money that's coming through Caitlin Clark, but once she goes to the WNBA, you don't think that money's not going to follow her? And she's not going to make more?
Well, do you know the team that has the number one pick in the WNBA draft? This is where I'm a little concerned.
That's the problem, where I'm thinking, okay, it's at Los Angeles? No. Is it the New York Liberty? By the way, don't play at MSG. They're in Brooklyn, so that's not real New York. No. It's the Indiana team, the Indiana Fever, I believe they're called.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, she could go to Indiana when they select her number one overall and win them multiple titles, but you're still in Indiana. And I don't know. I mean, people in Indiana will love Caitlin Clark being there. I mean, basketball's big in Indiana. They'll love her. But will Madison Avenue love it? Probably. Right? I would think so, because she's a brand and they could.
This is the test for the WNBA. If it doesn't work with this, then can we say, hard to see it in our lifetime, that it's going to kind of take off the way that a lot of people would like it to see? If you can't capitalize off of Caitlin Clark. Honestly, I'm surprised, Danger, and you brought up the destination. We've seen other players. We saw Peyton Manning do this. Like, no, I don't want to play for the Jets. I'm going back to Tennessee. He says he did it because he loves college. No. If it was another organization he had respect for, he would have been going out. Peyton Manning, the Jet. Yeah, that could have happened, really. So I don't know anything about the Indiana Fever organization, to be honest. Maybe they're the best organization. I have no idea. What I do know is, if you want to make money, then be in a big market.
Yeah. Speaking of big markets and big money, this is something we talked about briefly earlier this afternoon. I just want to go a little bit deeper into it if we can here during happy hour. And we'd welcome your calls at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. If you're a Bills season ticket holder listening, I'm curious as to what your involvement and your engagement has been with the team in terms of getting your season tickets for New Highmark Stadium. We know that they're going to do the big... what are they calling it? The stadium experience.
So apparently this is in suburban Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a story you and I got, that people are starting to get calls.
Yeah.
And your normal ticket rep isn't going to be your normal ticket rep. You're now going to be handled by somebody else. So you have your new stadium ticket person, but you can't do this online. You can't do it over the phone. You have to do it in person.
Right. They want the face-to-face interaction.
Which, okay, from sales... You always close more when it's face to face.
No question.
So understand why that's done.
I'm the guy I'm the guy jumping on desks saying, I'm done with Zoom meetings. I'm tired of the Zoom meetings. If we can meet in person, let's meet in person. If we can have a conversation face to face, that's always going to be preferred over a Zoom meeting or a phone call. I get that. I'm totally for that. Everybody knows that, right? So, and the Bills know that. So, they're reaching out to current season ticket holders, but I don't know what the who's getting called for seniority or based on where your seat is.
Right, and that I know, and I know part of the pitch, not the part of the pitch, part of what they're telling you. And look, this is half accurate, meaning, hey, the seat that you are accustomed to now, we're starting over here.
Yes.
So, like, wherever your seat is, hey, I'm on the 12th row on the 20-yard line. No. That's irrelevant. So we have to start over. So that's part of the reason they're saying we got to meet in person. And I can understand that. It's a new stadium. However, it's also an opportunity to maybe sell you an upgrade.
That's exactly what this is going to be. And we've been wondering from the very moment that there was talk of a new stadium being built, all right, with that comes the PSL, the personal seat license. We've seen other stadiums gouge fans with the PSL.
Which we have to say, where does the PSL go to directly?
That goes right to the Pagulas.
So for what the Pagulas put into the stadium, no, it's actually you through the PSL that's paying for this.
Right. Well, what the state put into the stadium, what the Pagulas put into the stadium will be made up for easily
by
with
the
PSLs, right? It is a business after all, and businessmen who are billionaires got to be billionaires by doing this kind of business. So first you get a record haul from the state of New York to build the stadium, and then on top of that you charge the PSL, which goes directly to your organization. Okay, fine. We've been talking about that. We've been bracing for it. I want to know what's the ask. What are they asking for that PSL? Because I've only started to hear rumblings that it is exorbitant. If you were thinking it was going to be a PSL was going to be $1,000, $2,000, $2,500, start tripling that number. Look more in the ballpark of $7,500, maybe $10,000. And the reason why I'm wondering about what this costs is because I've heard that a sponsor of the Buffalo Bills, a chief sponsor of the Buffalo Bills, M&T Bank, actually has representatives on hand as you're looking at your potential new season tickets at New Highmark to finance the cost of your investment into the Buffalo Bills.
So this is from Michael Petro, the Buffalo News. Okay, this is from 2022.
Yes.
Okay, and this is what they were reporting, that the PSLs could be as high as $16,500. PSLs in the survey range from $2,600 to $5,950, as low as $500 upper deck. So that's going to be what the Bills are going to say. Hey, at least you're not going to get a zero here.
These are still the lowest PSLs in the league.
Right, $500. The difference here is, and I would have to research this, right? But I would think that in this day and age, the majority of seats are not paid by Mr. and Mrs. Joe and Jane Smith. Okay? They're paid by this corporation, this law firm. They're paid by it's a write-off. And up until, 5 years ago, the write-off was for entertainment. Literally, you could write it off on the taxes. But the PSL, you don't need, the business can write that sort of check. I can't. I don't know about you, Danger. Like, you like to say you have your slush fund. I guarantee you, if you wrote $5,000 PSL check, Sandy would notice, okay? I don't know how many people have just $16,000 just lying around. This is like buying a car. Again, we're only talking about the PSL, not the actual ticket per game.
Oh, and that's going to go up too. You know, I mean, if let's say your face right now is 160 or 165, double at least.
Right. So when you buy a car, okay, they're not saying, hey, you can look at the sticker price. You know what it's going to cost. You negotiate a little bit. You feel pretty good. Are you saying, hey, as the salesperson, you're paying $29,000 for this? No, we're going to finance this over 60 months, and it's going to come in at $450 a month. $450 a month for your favorite team. Now, can you do that? That is the ass, Danger.
Yes.
Everybody's buying another car.
Yes.
It's called Buffalo Bills football.
That's right. That's a good way of putting it, Gino. Yeah, I think, and with the M&T Bank representatives there, and of course, there's going to be interest. So M&T Bank, a sponsor of the Buffalo Bills, they get to wet their beak as well. And I guess my thing, I've always been of the mind, like, if you can't afford it, don't buy it. If you can't afford it, don't.
That's not how our country was founded.
I know that so many of us are grounded in debt. It just drives me crazy that here's another thing that will potentially sink some individuals and their families because they can't afford this price. But they're going to do it anyways. And it goes back to the thing I think we said when we first started. I remember years ago we talked to the guy that wrote the book on how these stadiums are built. Remember?
Right. Yeah, Rafi Conan.
Yes. And he talked about, what is being sold when a stadium goes up versus what the actual reality is after the stadium goes up. It never goes well. Time in, time out. It just doesn't. Empty promises, they just don't come to fruition. And we, the fan, we pay not once but twice. They're double dipping. The state gets us. They're triple dipping. The state gets us. The Pagulas get us. And now the bank gets our interest as well. Where do I sign up for this? This sounds great.
But you don't want to miss it out because the Bills are in the Super Bowl window. And, there's other people also should know. The fear of loss here, Danger, that the capacity is going to be lower.
Yes.
So if you need more time to think about this, because what are the sales objections? I need more time to think about it. Sir, we have other people here. We don't have enough, so we're going to need to know right now.
Now, there's another element of this as well that probably is in the back of the Pagula's mind, something that they're doing. This will weed out some of the element that they maybe don't find to be savory on a game day in Buffalo.
Correct.
Which, if you're Terry and Kim Pagula, that's...
Or you're the NFL.
Or you're the NFL, right. So they're following the NFL's playbook. They're doing everything to the letter of what the NFL wants. You get the big ask from the state. You get a lot of money, record amount of money from New York State to build this stadium. Way to go, Terry. Way to go, Kim. You get the PSL, which is coming. I'm not sure what that number is, but if somebody knows or if somebody has already had that conversation of what's being financed or what you're going to have to finance just to pay for the PSL and the seats and the ticket prices going up, all of that. And then on top of that, you're going to finance it with M&T Bank. Make sure you pay it as soon as you can. Otherwise, you're going to get hit with that interest rate. Ooh. Gino, I don't know that we as a region, I don't know that we have the kind of wealth to support it. That was my fear then. It's still my fear now. And here's another fear that I have because we saw this happen in the Bronx. A new stadium gets built and a lot of people are priced out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to the new stadium and it doesn't measure up to the old stadium.
Yeah, it's what the Yankees did, and my friend Brian Nolan calls it a moat. Like, you're watching Yankee baseball, and the way the camera is behind home plate, it's like, is anybody at this game? Well, yeah, the camera's not showing you. Those are the rich seats down there.
Yeah.
And that's the moat there that is around that you cannot get down to said rich seats. And old Yankee Stadium, I've been to the old one. I haven't made it to the new one
Same.
yet. That had atmosphere.
Yes.
You were right on top of it. Didn't have any of the amenities. It really didn't. It was time, mind you. And
I'm not saying that it's not time. They need a new stadium. I don't disagree with it. But my fear is
get it right.
Well, my fear is that even if they do get it right, that fans will go and will still be dissatisfied because it's not what they are accustomed to.
Right. That's part of it. And I'd also say I'm not sure from talking to Yankee fans that they all believe, hey, we got this right. Now, for the Mets, it was pretty easy. Shea Stadium was a dump, D-U-M-P. And, all right, Citi Field's kind of nice. So, you don't have many complaints about Citi Field, but you're the Yankees. You should have the crown jewel of stadiums. And I don't know if anybody's calling Yankee Stadium the crown jewel.
I'm sure that Yankee Stadium does just fine, though, as far as what they charge for tours. And it's an attraction more than it is a stadium at this point, right? Like, you can go to Yankee Stadium and take tours of Yankee Stadium. And
the people they sit in the moat there are danger. It's like, that pays for everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I just, I had a conversation with a season ticket holder earlier, and it just kind of made me remember, like, oh, yeah, That's happening. That's coming. I'm wondering who, if anybody, has already had that conversation, what the ask is, and really, like, what are you thinking? What are we thinking? I know most of us are going to be like, yeah, it's my team. I don't care. I'll do whatever. But I would say, think about it. For every disclaimer that you hear me read about FanDuel, that's because I don't want you to bet away your mortgage. I don't want you to have to get a second loan, right?
If you're addicted to the Buffalo Bills, hope NY.
Well, that's kind of the same thing, right? Like you might be spending beyond your means because you're blindly in love with a team that is gouging you not once, not twice, but 3 times now.
You talk about personal responsibility all the time. Like, it is buying the car that you really don't need. That is going to be, they will price point this in such a way, Danger, where it's not going to be $50,000. It's only going to be this low payment per month. And you can afford that, right, Mr. Bills fan? Of course you can. Another story from the NFL. I love how the NFL, they control the narrative, because when they want to drop something on you, hey, you know what? We want you to talk about this here. Okay, we're going to talk about this because I've been asking for this for years. Who knew? In 2 stadiums this past season and in the Super Bowl, the NFL tested optical tracking. What the heck is optical tracking? What's what they're calling?
To spot the ball?
That's it. They're coming up with a system, the technology to get rid of chain gangs.
Good.
Now, it needs more work. Not going to happen in 2024, and it will require a vote. But this is where they're going to, finally.
This is good. Sean McDermott on the competition committee realizes that I can't get challenges right, and I never get it right when I challenge the spots. So he listens to the Sports Bar. Sean McDermott heard us say, don't challenge it, coach. It never works out when you challenge the spot. Never do it. Don't do it. Get the technology right.
Stop making me laugh. I don't know if it's a cold, but when I laugh, I lose my breath now.
We've had some laughs today. I mean, it's been. I mean, for you being without caffeine, for you being caffeine deprived, for me being sleep deprived, having to get up at 4 a.m. to drive my kid to the airport. Maybe this is the secret formula, the secret sauce, Gino.
Yeah.
You're caffeine deprived. I'm sleep deprived. Hot Take Hickey's coming in here saying that the Bills should trade Josh Allen, and I'm saying Sean McDermott is on the competition committee now, pushing for this so he can never get a challenge wrong again.
I thought you would say he's on the competition committee. You know what? We're getting rid of challenges altogether. No more challenges. Anybody.
Can't get them wrong if you can't challenge them.
Nope. We're going to speed this up, everybody.
Well, that's long overdue, in my opinion. I don't want to see the chain gang go away. I mean, I feel like that's a fun little game day thing that you got going on there. But
it's BS.
We've moved on, right?
It's BS.
Yes,
it's all eye tests. We should be doing eye tests.
We've moved on. I mean, you can pinpoint if tennis can do what they do to get it right. I think the NFL can figure out a way to get the spot right on any given play. Let's go. What are we waiting for? We haven't got it right yet. Okay, get it right, and then let's get it going. That's good that the NFL is doing that. Man, a lot's coming out of the NFL scouting combine. Also saw that. Where do you come down? Well, I saw a couple of things rule related. One is that the tush push probably isn't leaving the game. That the competition committee believes that a rule change there would be punishing a team for doing something well. Again, Sean McDermott probably weighing in on that one because the Bills have success with that play.
Yeah, not to what Philadelphia did, but like anything else, when the Wildcats showed up on the scene, like, oh my gosh, how do you defend that? And everybody defended it.
You figure it out.
Yeah, it'll be figured out.
And then the other rule that might be changing here, and they need the 24 votes in order for it to change for this upcoming season, is the NFL kickoff rule. And they might actually adopt the old XFL style where you got players lining up like 5 yards apart, and returns are incentivized once again because a kick into the end zone, then a touchback, would result in the ball being placed at the 35. So you'd want returns. You'd want to keep the ball in the field of play. And finally,
that would make more sense, too, because more scoring, 35 yards. Yeah,
that's right.
All that.
Gino, where do you come down on owners interviewing quarterbacks? We know that Terry was involved in the recruitment of Josh Allen.
I have no problem with this because that's the one position where you are not just calling plays or making the plays happen. You are the face of the organization. Sometimes you're the face of the city. Sometimes you're the face of Western New York if you're Josh Allen. You were talking about the Washington order, Harris. Interviewing. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Why wouldn't he? He was doing this with every prospect.
I don't have a problem with it either. Here's where I have the problem with it. If you're an owner and you only surround yourself with yes men, then you've got a problem. See Carolina. Because David Tepper is of the assumption that it was a unanimous decision that they were going to draft Bryce Young, which tells me that there were people in his organization that were too afraid to tell him he's not the guy. Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely. Because if you like Bryce Young, sir, then we all like Bryce Young. He's the guy that signs the checks after all.
Yeah. I think that David Tepper is the new Daniel Snyder in this league, potentially. So, Harris, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt because, well, he's owned the Sixers and the Devils for a while, so he should know, right, the pitfalls of...
Let your guys make the decision.
Right, the player evaluation. But if I am going to pay somebody an amount that I've never paid before here at the quarterback position...
Like I said, I don't have a problem with it. Unless you're surrounded by yes men. Because Josh Harris, new owner, lots of new guys, lots of new faces, new GM, new head coach. If you want to impress the owner, the billionaire owner, do you just agree with whatever he wants? Or do you actually challenge him and say, yeah, I know you interviewed this guy and I know you like him, but this guy over here is actually the better football player.
So as the story goes, Sean McDermott's first year, Doug Whaley is still the GM, and the Bills are on the clock at number 10. Terry Bagula wanted the Bills to draft Patrick Mahomes.
That's right.
And Sean McDermott said this is not the timeline. So to your answer, do you respect that look, the decision may be wrong. We could debate that till we're blue in the face. But do you respect McDermott for at least saying, no, Mr. Bagula, not now?
Well, that's the right move. You have to be able to stand up to your billionaire owner, the guy that signs your checks, not be afraid and trust your instincts and say, not it. Not the move. No, Bryce Young shouldn't be who we take here because C.J. Stroud is the better quarterback. But they didn't do it. And look, Bryce Young may end up being a decent quarterback in the NFL when it's all said and done. They'll look good after 1 year, and certainly looks like C.J. Stroud is head and shoulders above where Bryce Young is. So we'll see if the Commanders get it right, if they're staying at 2 or if they end up moving up to 1. But Josh Harris is there at the Combine and is interviewing with these potential future franchise quarterbacks of the Washington Commanders.
The other Commander note today is that they made step number 1 for getting the RFK site cleared, where that could be the potential new sites for the old site is the new site for the new stadium.
See, that's a situation where if a new stadium gets built, I'm not worried about the region having enough wealth to accommodate it. I think they'll be okay. Here in Western New York,
What are you worried about? It's done.
I know it's done, but it doesn't mean that it's right.
Stop. Here's the worst case scenario. It's Oakland. Okay, and this is like the mid-'90s. Oakland, when they redid the dump of a stadium, all right, they built Mount Allen, they called it. They did PSLs. And then it's a few months before the season, and they're so far behind. Then they let people buy season tickets without the PSL. So could you imagine being in one section where you paid the PSL and the next section there weren't? I don't think we get to that point. There's enough of a runway here. But that would be the worst case scenario. And
that would be ugly.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
That would be ugly. That would be a stain. Let's get to a round of shots next.
Yeah, as we will get you set up for the action tonight in the world of sports, something we haven't talked about. Oh, because Mike Danger loves expansion. The new college football playoff scenario. We'll debate this, I'm sure. Shohei Ohtani breaking some news on social media. We'll explain that. And some other nuggets that are not so savory. Hopefully that your workplace is better than some of these. The NFLPA survey we'll revisit.
All right, we'll get to a round of shots next, and we'll also take your calls for last call before we close up shop at 6, 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to the... update.
Sabres hockey tonight here on The Fan as the team in Tampa Bay. Dustin Tokarski, he's been called up, the goaltender for the Amherst. He's in Buffalo tonight for this game in Tampa Bay, I should say. Don Granato on those Tampa Bay Lightning.
You know what they bring night in. They bring it night in and night out. They're very dangerous, talented guys. And again, their supporting cast is an ultra-competitive group.
7 o'clock, our coverage tonight here on The Fan. The Amherst in Belleville tomorrow and Saturday. Combine continuing as the Buffalo Bills looking at some prospects today. Knicks hosting Golden State tonight. That's one of the games in the NBA. Caitlin Clark announcing she'll enter the WNBA draft following this season at Iowa. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Save half off today to Lasertron in Henrietta. For this and other great deals, log on to GetMyPerks.com today. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Bills fans, Odyssey is your home for football. Stay up to date on everything Bills, no matter where you are, with the Odyssey app and the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
Time for a round of shots in the sports bar, Gino.
Yeah, get ready for another expansion of the college football playoff being discussed now. The expansion to 14 teams. This is how it would work, Danger. SEC and Big Ten get 3 automatic qualifiers. The ACC and Big 12 get 2 AQs, with a group of 5 getting 1. And there would be 3 at-large bids if Notre Dame finishes in the top 14 in the ranker. Then they're automatically in. The SEC and Big Ten earning somewhere between 25 and 30% of the revenue. The ACC and Big 12 will be next, 15 to 20%, and then everybody else gets the remnants, nearly 1% for Notre Dame.
I just want what Chip Kelly discussed to happen in college athletics. Do you remember Chip Kelly's comments on this?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's he this is a guy that's actually doing it. He's actually thought about it.
The biggest issue that you might have right now, whether it be realignment, NIL, transfer portal, and what would your plan maybe be to try to solve it?
I think they're all a problem, and I think we need to have a conference commissioner. I think football should be separate from the other sports. Just the fact that our school is leaving to go to the Big Ten in football, our softball team should be playing Arizona in softball. Our basketball team should be playing Arizona in basketball. But because football left, and they're saying, well, how do you do that? Well, Notre Dame's independent in football, and they're in a conference and everything else. I think we should all be independent in football. And you can have a 64-team conference that's in the Power 5, and you can have a 64-team conference in the Group of 5. And we separate it, and we play each other. You can have the West Coast teams, and then every year we play 7 games against the West Coast teams, and then we play the East. So we play Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, West Virginia, Virginia. Then the next year you play against the South while you still play your 7 teams. You can play a 7-game schedule. You can play 4 against another conference, another division opponent, and you can always play against one Mountain West team every year so that we can still keep those rivalries going. Not that I've really thought about this.
Right. Not that I've really thought about it.
What's funny is, like the NFL, future opponents. Well, today, Syracuse still has a couple games to go in their season, but now we know who their basketball team, the future opponents next year. Get ready for the Orange to play ACC opponents next year on the road, Danger. Cal, Stanford,
not great.
Southern Methodist,
not ideal.
Like, why did you have to drag all these other sports?
It's just not ideal. They've really, really messed it up.
The most famous athlete in Japan tied the knot. Shohei Ohtani announcing on social media they got married.
Holla, we want prenup. We want prenup. Yeah.
He said his new wife is also from Japan. He did not identify her. He said he would reveal more in an interview tomorrow. He asked the media to refrain from conducting unauthorized interviews.
Okay.
The story broke mid-afternoon in Japan. It was breaking news everywhere as a lead story.
So in Japan, this is like this is like the royal family. You know, if you're gonna have an interview with Shohei and his wife, it's got to be you've got to get Barbara Walters or whoever. Like that's the only way you're gonna get anything out of Shohei and his wife.
Like who's gonna break the news? Like who is Miss Ohtani?
Hey, good for him. Hope he's happy. Hope there's a prenup.
You called it danger. Luka Doncic, 30 points, 16 assists, 11 rebounds on his 25th birthday.
I will eat steaks this weekend, thanks to Sir Luka. Thank you.
11 triple-double this season. Dallas beating Toronto. 8 games in the NBA tonight. The doubleheader on TNT. Warriors and Knicks at 7:30. Followed by a rematch of the NBA Finals. You have to think here. Who was it? Oh, last year. That's right. Miami at Denver.
Who do you like in Madison Square Garden tonight?
I like the Warriors.
Me too.
Yeah, I think that they'll rise to the occasion here.
I feel bad because the Knicks are a lot of fun, but man, the way they were just kind of hanging on by a thread, the way they had to tackle a player to get the win against Detroit the other night.
I don't know what you're talking about. That was completely a great defensive play by DiVincenzo.
Yeah, it's feeling like a double-digit victory for the Warriors tonight at Madison Square Garden.
The NHL trade deadline isn't until next Friday, but we had a deal last night. Former RIT Tiger Chris Tanev, he was a centerpiece.
He's ours.
He is ours. Rochester native Chris Tanev.
Rochester's own.
He was here just 12 months, but he's still ours. 3-team deal. Tanev goes from Calgary to Dallas. The Stars loading up for a cup run. Tanev is due to become an unrestricted free agent after the season.
Tanev is ours. Rory McIlroy is ours. And the Sun is soon to be ours. We'll have the Sun for one afternoon in April.
Which will disappear, and it's only happening here.
Well, it's ours moving forward. Yeah. We have it. It's ours.
Finally, here are some tidbits from the NFL annual NFLPA survey, I should say. And some are not so pleasant. The Atlanta Falcons, well, first, before we get to that, the Bengals got a D+ for their locker room. Half the showers in the locker room don't function properly, either lacking warm water or sufficient water pressure. That's not really good. The Atlanta Falcons got an F for their locker room. Players say there aren't enough toilets and that the ventilation is poor.
Well, okay.
And if you thought that was bad, the Commanders got an F- as they actually had multiple sewage leaks this season in their locker room.
Oh, yeah. All right. The F- feels aggressive. F is bad. You can just give him an F. The F- is like, it's a little aggressive. But we are talking about football players here, so they're not going to be shy on telling you what they don't like.
Well, the ventilation is poor. Like, can't they get like a match, or can't they get some spray?
Everybody out of the locker room. Arthur Blank is coming in, and he needs to use the facility. Everybody clear out. You know what happens when Blank is down here. Get out. Everybody out. Light a match, dude. I played for the I can't.
I played for the Falcons one season, and I was in the locker room, and my nose hairs were singed after the owner used the facility, and I want to sue Arthur Blank. I want to sue the Atlanta Falcons for poor ventilation and punitive damages. And there wasn't enough water pressure when I went to wash my hands. I went to light a match. I burned my ass pipe, and now I'm damaged. I fell down the stairs. My shoes fell off, and I'm suing everybody for punitive damages.
So you're talking about Arthur Blank. I think like Arthur Smith walking into that bathroom.
Yeah, sue him too. Arthur Smith is terrible. He came in. He called me mean names. He shouted. He cursed me out. He cursed me out. Then he defecated in the locker room, and it smelled for a week. We couldn't get the smell out. We went to Yankee Candle. I broke a candle in my hands. I cut my hands, and now I want to sue everybody. And I fell down the stairs, and my glasses fell off, and I broke my glasses, Gene. I want what's right.
Our old building, we used to have to light Yankee Candles because of the bad ventilation here.
Not great.
Yeah.
Not great. Every now and then, if you see a Yankee Candle lit, you're masking something. I own it now. I mean, if you're gonna, like, hey, sorry, you just walked into the blast zone. We're not worried about that today because Gino didn't have any coffee. Caffeine-free Gino.
Sorry, no caffeine.
Caffeine-free Gino and sleep-deprived Danger. We come back next and wrap things up with Last Call. You can join us at 585-8664-FAN, 866-4326. This hour of the Sports Bar is brought to you by the Farmer's Dog. Fresh, human-grade dog food delivered right to your door.
You're listening to For FAN, 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Sabres hockey tonight on The Fan, 7 o'clock against the Lightning. Dare I say it?
Feels like a loss.
I'm going to say feels like a win.
Oh, Danger, stop.
Feels like a win.
Stop.
Feels like a win.
Tampa Bay. They need this one. Okay, so for a day that comes once every 4 years, we had Ryan Hickey on earlier today. And I thought it was a fun conversation, right? If you could just kind of just know it's sports and not get really all that upset. We look back 4 years from now on the next leap year day, Danger, when we have what the career path, how did it go for Josh Allen, and where did Caleb Williams go, and is he going to get a second contract with whatever team? I'd just be kind of curious to revisit this silly debate we had today and be like, boy, Hickey was really, really dumb, or, oh my gosh, Hickey was on to something.
I want to dismiss it as silly, but I can't dismiss it entirely as silly. Now, it's not going to happen. We can dismiss the notion that it would happen because, well, all of the ramifications that we laid out, but also I just don't think the Bills would do that. Like, they love Josh Allen. They love that they have a marketable face of the franchise. The fans love Josh Allen. If you moved on from Josh Allen, this fan base would revolt at a time when you're trying to get them to spend, as we were discussing, all this extra money on the new stadium. So I don't think any of that is happening. I get what Hickey is saying, though. I understand. I mean, like, the advantages of doing it. If it was Trevor Lawrence in his 6th or 7th year. How many years for Allen now? This is going to be his. Wow. This will be his 7th year coming up, right?
That's correct.
And Trevor Lawrence hasn't got somebody that isn't as. Like we kind of admit, like, Josh Allen is the most famous person in our region. He's like the celebrity in Western New York. I don't know that Trevor Lawrence is that to Florida or to North Florida. I might be wrong, but there would be so many ramifications to doing that would be just negative. So it's not going to happen. But he does make sense with some of his points. Teams that get quarterbacks on a rookie deal, that cost controlling is an advantage. And the Bills utilized it. And the Bills utilized it to great effect up until the 13 seconds game. And now
it's going to be tougher. That's why you bring it full circle to this draft and the importance. You can't whiff on it. It can't be a Kyer Elam.
Well, if you ask them, they didn't whiff on Kyer Elam. Kyer Elam's going to be just fine.
I thought it was interesting, Josh Reed. It's good that we have guests on to give you unexpected answers. That's what we want. And just asking the question about Tre'Davious White, hey, would he take less money? He's like, the answer lies within Kyer Elam. Like, that's right. Kyer Elam, if they think he's going to bring it together, why would you pay Tre'Davious White?
Right. He's a first-round draft pick, just like Trey White was.
Right.
And he's younger. And you've got a little bit more cost control with him as well. Can he play? Can he play in Sean McDermott's defense? Fantastic fun this afternoon here in the Sports Bar. Josh Reed, as you mentioned, from WIVB-TV was fantastic, joining us from Indianapolis, sharing all of his latest notes from the Combine and his conversations with Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, all the position groups that are on display. And you mentioned Ryan Hickey, Hot Take Hickey. Hey, it was a fun conversation. He held his own. He didn't back down. And I'm sure he's going to bring it up the next time he has an opportunity to bring it up to a Bills fan. You're armed. You know what to say. He's armed. He knows what to say. It's not that serious. You can have the conversation and think about it and be like, okay, we know it's not going to happen, but I get what he's saying. I also think that the Colts would have been foolish to trade away Peyton Manning after the sixth postseason bouncing at the hands of New England. Like 6 chances before he got to the Super Bowl. If you missed those conversations, get them on demand wherever you get your podcast. Just search out the Sports Bar, including the free-to-download Odyssey app. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 90.